So the Hawkeye Disney Plus series started last week, and I didn't get a chance to make a video on the first two episodes, but now the third episode is out as of this week, so I'm going to do a review of the first three episodes in one video. So if you enjoyed this video today, feel free to like and subscribe for future Marvel content. Also, I'm not going to talk about every single little detail in these episodes. However, I will say I'm not going to hold myself back from talking about things that happened in the episodes. So if you don't want to get spoiled, potential spoiler warning for the Hawkeye episodes 1 through 3. So that is a spoiler warning for Hawkeye episodes 1 through 3. Also, I will say as well, I don't think a lot of, in my opinion, story beats happened. I don't think big story beats happened in the first 3 episodes anyway, so I don't know how much you would be quote-unquote spoiled. But, anyway, spoiler warning for Hawkeye episodes 1 through 3. So in episode 1, starting from the very beginning, I think it was a great opening with a callback to the Battle of New York, and just the connection to the broader MCU I liked a lot. I love it when they kind of expand on the Battle of New York more after the fact, because it shows that just more shit was going on than we could see back in that first Avengers movie. Like, in Endgame when it showed the Sorcerer Supreme, or I should say the Ancient One, fighting on the rooftop and shit. We see Kate Bishop getting saved by one of Hawkeye's stray arrows, and that's what gives her the inspiration to want to become a good archer herself and train up herself. So I think that was really cool. The series in general continuing, it proves itself to be fun, but also has some serious moments, which I definitely appreciate. I think right now it has a good balance. It's not necessarily too fun, and it's also not too serious. I think the balance is good. The Rogers the Musical I thought was a cool touch. They actually had a lot more of the Rogers the Musical in it than I expected. But it was just funny. It was a funny little gag, but I definitely enjoyed that myself. Moving forward in the episode, when we get introduced at the auction to organized crime, I thought the introduction to it was cool. It was good to leave some unanswered questions, and it's just good in general to see this side of the MCU. I would say again, but technically the word on the street is that the Netflix series are not canon, so this is potentially the actual first time we're seeing this side of the MCU just for the first time as far as organized crime goes and stuff like that. So establishing Kate Bishop as a skilled fighter as well, but not an expert, is also refreshing in my opinion. She clearly can whoop ass, but she clearly also gets her ass whooped in this episode. Like, she's not invincible. I think that type of thing is refreshing to see. And I mean, obviously the best part of episode 1 was also Lucky the dog, because he is a very sweet boy. So moving on to episode 2. So not too much story elements happened in episode 2 in my opinion, but it was still a fun episode with the LARPing and stuff. Just kind of jokey with the LARPing, but it was still funny to see. The questions surrounding who killed the guy from the first episode, who I honestly forgot his name, is still being cleverly raised here with Kate's mom's fiance. But I definitely think it's setting Kate's mom up to be more involved in organized crime than she expects. Some people think she's actually being set up to be Madame Mask, who is a leader of a crime organization at one point in the comics. So that would be interesting to see. Obviously, the actual character of Kate Bishop's mom in the comics is not Madame Mask. It's a different person, but obviously this wouldn't be the first time the MCU does something like this, so that's not necessarily a big deal in my opinion. It definitely does good to expand the mystery, kind of leaving us wondering what's going to happen. And in my opinion, this episode starts to make the series feel more like the original Netflix series, kind of like Daredevil, Luke Cage, and stuff like that. And then obviously at the end of this episode, we get our introduction to Echo, who has captured Kate and Clint. So I think the introduction to Echo was nice. For those of you who haven't watched episode 3 yet, obviously the reason why it was like vibrations and loud music and stuff is because I don't know if I mentioned this before, but Echo is deaf. So that's potentially something that they can bond, her and Clint can bond over in the show going forward. So speaking of that as well, I'll now go into episode 3. So if you've only seen episode 1 and 2 so far, and episode 3 just came out, I know, if you don't want to get spoiled for that, spoiler warning for episode 3 going forward. So episode 3 was easily better than the first 2, has a much bigger and more enjoyable action sets in my opinion, while still being able to keep it fun. I just think I think Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop is doing a great job so far. Like the way that she quips and stuff like that is very much in Kate Bishop's character. So I am enjoying her performance so far. The exposition into Echo's backstory is a good call as well, and definitely implies, in my opinion, some way that she is going to become good by the end of the series. So obviously in her exposition into her backstory at the beginning of episode as well, there were lots of references to her quote-unquote uncle, and we see in her kind of past when she was a kid, when they're talking about, when it shows basically her uncle, we only see like a waist shot, we don't see the face, and we see a big white man's hand. That is her uncle, and I think this is very easily setting up Kingpin to be her uncle, quote-unquote, and it will probably be revealed either by the end of the next episode or episode 5, but I definitely think that was just easily setting up Kingpin, because obviously, if you don't know already in the comics, Kingpin kills Echo's father, and obviously, as we see in this episode, we've seen the Ronin, I guess we should say potentially the Ronin, killing her father. And the only reason why I say potentially is we definitely see the Ronin outfit and stuff like that, but we don't see that it's Clint Barton. And I'm not even trying to imply that it was necessarily Kate Bishop who did it, but I am trying to imply it seems like a very Kingpin thing to do, to frame the Ronin for killing people that work for him so it doesn't seem like it was him, if kind of that makes sense. I think that's a very Kingpin thing to do, and the fact that they didn't show kind of that it was definitively Clint Barton, because it didn't show his face, it only showed like the back shots of the Ronin outfit, I think is cleverly setting up that it was maybe not necessarily Kingpin specifically in a Ronin outfit, but that maybe he just was framing the Ronin, because during this time period, the Ronin was already, let on the loose and stuff like that, going around and killing people involved in organized crime. So we'll see with that. And then Clint losing his hearing aid and having to cope with not being able to hear anything in this episode is definitely something I want to see more of, and it definitely adds kind of an interesting aspect to it. The whole entire, big action sequence of this with the car chase, I thought was fantastic. I would love to see more of these. Again, this is really feeling like a Netflix series like Daredevil and stuff, especially because Daredevil had famously some of the best action sequences with non-broken shots. So it's just one straight shot the whole time while everything is happening, and this series is definitely having a lot of those. So I'm enjoying that aspect a lot. And honestly, one of the best parts of this episode, in my opinion, was when the normal arrow that Kate shoots up in the air, Clint also then takes out a Pym particle arrow and shoots the normal arrow to make it huge, which that just took me immediately by surprise. I thought that was really fun. And I mean, that's just cool to see that type of crossover, obviously. We don't know how he got the Pym particle arrow, but I don't think that's something that needs to be looked into too deeply. I think it's just the fact, Hawkeye and Ant-Man have worked with each other through Endgame now. I think that he just held him down with some Pym particles and stuff. I don't think it's that deep. But I think this maneuver by Hawkeye was one of the best things we've seen with Hawkeye so far. So I really enjoyed it. The episode ends with still a good amount of mystery, to keep people wanting to watch every week. And I think this consistency with ending on like mild cliffhangers to, keep people questioning what's going to happen next, I think is obviously a great call. Overall, in my opinion, so far, I think episode 3 is the best, followed by episode 1 and then episode 2. None of them bad so far, obviously. I would say episode 3 is probably like an 8. Episode 1's probably 8 out of 10, I should say. Episode 1's probably slightly under that, and then episode 2 is probably slightly under that. But I'm definitely enjoying the series so far, and I can't wait. I'm just hoping that Kingpin makes his introduction, and they're setting him up clearly for it. So if you enjoyed this video today, feel free to like and subscribe for future Marvel content, and I appreciate you for watching the video.